Meeting is now called to order. Today is August 15th, 2023. City Clerk, can you please take roll?
Councilmember Barbadillo. Vice Mayor Chua.
Here.
Councilmember Leon.
Here.
Councilmember Fan.
Present.
Mayor Montano.
And I am here. Is there any, now before we go to closed session, City Attorney, would you please brief the public on what will be in closed session?
Sure, Mayor. Thank you very much. Today you have 3 public session items on your agenda. You have closed session A, public employee appointment for recruitment of the city manager. You have item B, conference with legal counsel. This is anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, facts and circumstances related to the claim against the city. Your legal counsel on that will be Adam Lindgren from Myers-Nave. Last, you'll have item C, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, County Sanitation District 2-3 et al. Versus the City of San Jose et al. This is Santa Clara Superior Court case number 18CV 325480. The city is the plaintiff, and I will be your legal counsel on that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael. And now, is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on any of the items that our city attorney has addressed? Seeing none, I will adjourn to closed session. Hey, we're reconvening back. So it is now time to report out. So for item number 1 in closed session, there was no action taken. And now we will have Adam, would you please come up? Mr. Lindgren, come up.
Council members of the committee. This evening, the city council met in closed session on one item of anticipated litigation and received legal updates and took no other reportable action.
Thank you very much. And now we will have our city attorney report item C.
At this time, there's nothing to report out on item C.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand up, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And now we'll move on to the invocation. And we have Honorable Consul Hanlon.
Thank you. May our gathering today be infused with a spirit of unity and determination. May we be inspired to continue championing the rights and empowerment of all individuals, regardless of gender, and work tirelessly towards a future where true equality is realized. Grant us the wisdom to recognize and address all challenges and the strength to work together in solidarity. Let us focus on the importance of equality and the contribution of women. Let us remember the courageous women who paved the way for a more just and equal world. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lynn. And now it's time for presentations. So we will be announcing Women's Equity Equality Day Proclamation, Aero Tech Club Commendation, and recognition of Jason Carswell and Jaden Petty for the USA Junior Olympics track and field events. So if my colleagues would like to join me. And my colleagues can help me pass out the commendations. So for Women's Equity Equality Day, so here it is. Women's Equality Day commemorates the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution in 1920, which granted women the right to vote. This day celebrates the progress made towards gender equity and highlights the ongoing efforts to achieve equal rights for women in all areas of life. Join me, Mayor Carmen Montano, and the Milpitas City Council in proclaiming August 26, 2023 as Women's Equality Day in the city of Milpitas. And is there a woman here that would like to receive this proclamation? Thank you. You deserve it. You've lived many wisdom. So here you go. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for accepting that. So now we will do, the City of Milpitas presents this recognition to Mr. Jason Carswell for his successful USA Junior Olympics bid track and field event. On behalf of the City Council, I, Mayor Carmen Montano, recognize and commend Mr. Jason Carswell for successfully placing second silver medal in the long jump event at 8-year-old level at the USA Junior Olympics competition held in Eugene, Oregon. This huge accomplishment put Jason at an elite level nationwide. Congratulations and keep up the great work. Presented on this 15th day of August. Come on up.
Where are the parents? Parents, come too. Yes. No, come on, Charmaine will take a picture. Oh, grandma too. Come here, grandma. Come on. Get next to you. Get next to you. Hey. Thank you.
Hey, the next one, the city of Milpitas presents this recognition to Mr. Jaden Petty for his successful USA Junior Olympics bid, track and field events. On behalf of the city council, I, Mayor Carmen Montano, recognize and commend Mr. Jaden Petty for successfully placing the third bronze medal in the 100-meter final and fourth place in the 200-meter final, 10-year-old level at the USA Junior Olympics competition held in Eugene, Oregon. These huge accomplishments put Jaden at an elite level nationwide. Congratulations and keep up the great work. President, 15th day of August. Come on up.
Parents, mom, grandmas. Come on up.
Thank you. And now this is for the Aerotech. Now, students from Milpitas High School. So the city of Milpitas presents this commendation to Albert Fung 2023 American Rocketry Challenge. On behalf of the Milpitas City Council, I, Mayor Carmen Montano, recognize Albert Fung for being a member of the Milpitas High School Aerotech Club and being accepted into the final round of the 2023 American Rocketry Challenge presentation competition. Albert is commended for all the hard work that went into creating the team's presentation, which described the rocket building, testing, and results. Out of 800 teams, the Milpitas High School Aerotech Club was among the top 5 teams, earning a spot in the competition final round. Congratulations and keep up the great work. Come on up here. So Albert Fung, Albert.
Argon pie. Oh, Albert's not here. How about Argon? How about Argon? Argon's here. Hey.
Why don't we pass them all out and then we can all take a picture.
Yeah. Go ahead. Isaac. Anthony. Anthony. Oh, he's got Anthony.
Yeah, well, just read his name.
Oh, okay. So I just passed one to Kang Nguyen right here, a man. And the next one, Letitia Lee. She's in college.
Oh,
Wow, look at her. Skyrocket. Roman Silivra. All right.
And Yusuf. Yusuf, come here, come over. Read your last name for me. Read your last name.
It's Kotambawala.
There you go.
Go for a picture. This one is for Osborne Wang.
Yay. Let's go. That's it.
Give this one to we'll give the commendations.
Yeah.
Oops. So thank you. I want to recognize all of you, all the Aerotech Tech Club. I mean, we have future scientists here. Well, you are scientists, actually. Thank you so much. And also for our sports enthusiasts. I mean, they really track and field. That's amazing. Thank you for all your hard work. And I also want to recognize my nephew, Ricky Montano, longtime Milpitas resident, and his fiance. Thank you for being here. You want to say something? Go ahead. Oh, you can put the mic down.
Yes, I want to say thank you and for being the person that you are. You're a great inspiration to me. You help me better myself and help these children better themselves. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ricky.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, now let's see. Now let's move on to the public forum. Members of the public are invited to speak on any item that does not appear on the agenda, and public forum will be limited to 1 minute. So are there any members from the public that would like to speak on any item that is not on the agenda?
Mayor, I have one card from Greg Jones.
Okay, we'll have,
Madam Mayor, City Council, I am proud to be a citizen of Milpitas. I am proud of the way that Greenbelt looks at travels all the way from nearly City Hall, all the way up to the city limit of Fremont. I'm proud of our police chief and his force. I'm proud of the way our city works. I'm proud of having a mayor who reached deep in her own pocket to give a donation to support our Rocket Club. I thank you all.
thank you so much. Appreciate it. I believe in you, students. I really do believe in you. You're going to go far and keep up the great work. Thank you. So is there anyone else from the public that would like to say speak? Any more? No one else from the public? Is there anyone on Zoom?
I have no hands raised, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, now moving on to the announcement, conflict of interest. And campaign contributions. We have our city attorney, Michael Mutalapasi.
Thank you, Mayor. I ask you, Mayor, and each city council member, whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you for that. And I will read the code of conduct.
Mayor, we have to do a roll call.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Roll call.
Councilmember Barbadillo is absent. Vice Mayor Chua.
Here.
That's a yes or no. Any?
Roll call. I mean, oh, what is it? No. Thank you so much. I'm hungry, to be honest with you. Thank you.
Councilmember Leanne.
No.
Councilmember Fan.
None.
Mayor Montano.
And I am a none.
I further ask you, Mayor Montano, and the members of City Council to please disclose any campaign contributions of $100 or more received within the last 12 months from any of the parties entering into contracts with the city on tonight's agenda, or contributions received from the development project applicant for development projects on tonight's agenda.
Vice Mayor Chua.
None.
Councilmember Leanne.
None.
Councilmember Fan.
None.
Mayor Montano.
And I am a none.
Let the record reflect there are no reported conflicts.
Thank you. And I will read the code of conduct. This is our Milpitas City Code of Conduct. Be respectful and courteous. Words, tone, and body language do matter. Model civility. Avoid surprises. Praise publicly and criticize privately. Focus on the issue, not the person. Refrain from using electronic devices while on the council dais out of respect. Disclose conflicts of interest and affiliations related to item agendas. Separate governing from campaigning. The council speaks with one voice after making policy on issues. Respect the line between policy and administration. Council will hold one another accountable to comply with this code of conduct. And now moving on to the approval of the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to make changes to the approval of the agenda? I don't see any. Is there a motion?
I would like to move. Because 17 might take longer, I would like to move up 18 first before 17, if that's okay.
Is that the CDA?
Yes.
Okay, we're moving item 18 CDA.
Thank you.
Before, okay, all right. Are there any changes other than that? If not, a call for a motion. I don't see your name on this. Where's the IT guy? I don't see your name on here. Daniel, I don't see her name on the screen to call on the council members. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, no, but there's name. It just has a number. It doesn't have a name on there. Yeah, come on up.
You want to take a brief recess? Will he
Yeah.
fix it?
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess and while you fix this. Okay. Thank you. Now we're continuing. So we got this six. Thank you, Daniel. And Vice Mayor had her hand up. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to approve the agenda with the change to switch 17 and 18.
Okay, thank you for that. Now we're going to call for the vote.
First, you need a second.
Oh, I need a second. This is seconded. Seconded by Anthony Fannin, and we're going to call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Leanne,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Thank you. And let's see. And now we're moving on to the consent calendar. Are there any comments from staff for the consent calendar?
No comments.
Okay, none. So is it okay to proceed with the consent calendar as is? Okay, I don't see anybody, so we will call for public comment for the consent calendar. I don't see anyone. Is there anyone on Zoom?
I have no hands raised in Zoom.
Okay, so I need a motion and a second for the consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent items.
Moved by Councilmember Lynn and seconded by Anthony Fan. Councilmember Anthony Fan. Okay, and now we will call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Leanne,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Thank you. So now that we have approved the consent calendar, we're moving on to item 17, community. Oh, item 18, community services and sustainable infrastructure. So if city manager, would you please read?
Thank you, Mayor
Title.
Montano. Our first item tonight will be a report from the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, from the Community Task Force that was formed at the direction of the council. And we have our Deputy Director of Recreation and Community Service, Tegan McLean, here to lead the presentation, provide the presentation, and I believe a couple of members of the CEDAW task force will also assist in making the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Montano and Vice Mayor Chua and members of the City Council. I am pleased today to present for you the report from the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW Task Force. And I have with me two members of the task force who will assist in the presentation, sharing their findings and recommendations. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So first, a little bit of background information. The International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women was adopted by the United Nations in 1979. The U.S. signed the treaty in 1980, but it was never ratified by the Senate. Since that time, local U.S. governments have begun supporting individually starting in 2014. And Milpitas joined the effort with a resolution to support CEDAW principles in May of 2020 and adopted the CEDAW principles and pledged to create a task force in June of 2020. In 2022, we received state funding for advancing women in Milpitas, and that was the start of the task force's work. Next slide, please. So the task force, as determined by City Council, was to include subject matter experts in economic development, violence against women and girls, healthcare, a youth liaison from the Girl Up Club at Milpitas High School, and representatives from City Council and staff. The task force members who were appointed by City Council were Mayor Carmen Montano and Vice Mayor Evelyn Chua as council representatives, Vicki Lee from the Girl Up Club at Milpitas High School as our youth representative, Zakia Afrin from Maitri, the Domestic Violence Victims Advocacy Group, as our representative in the area of violence against women and girls, Juliana Brahim from Milpitas Unified School District in the area of economic development, Dr. Swati Sita in the area of healthcare, and Ashwini Kantak, our Assistant City Manager, as the city appointed representative. And next slide, please. I'll now turn it over to Zakia to tell you about the task force's actions.
Thank you, Tegan. Good evening, everyone. It was a pleasure being part of this committee. We had from October 2022 to May 2023, a few months at hand, and we met 7 times. Every meeting counted because we, within these 7 meetings, we talked about a timeline, we had brainstormed work plan and goals. We also had presentations from NovaWorks on local workforce statistics, as well as presentation from the Milpitas Police Department on crimes against women. The majority of our meeting time were spent in designing and administering a survey to find out the status of women in Milpitas City. So we designed the survey, we sent it out everywhere, and by the end of our meetings, we got the survey results. Thank you for sharing the next slide. So as you can see, the results, majority not aware of discrimination against women in Milpitas. Most common awareness is related to domestic violence. Housing and healthcare are areas where public knowledge is low. Majority agreed that Milpitas is safe, respectful, and supportive community that offers good job opportunities to women. And here I wanted to share some specific statistics. 79% of the survey takers found Milpitas to be safe. 72% said Milpitas was respectful. 63% found Milpitas city to be supportive, and 54% said there are good job opportunities. So really very, very good feedback from the citizens and residents of Milpitas. And then top 3 priorities that came out from the survey include housing assistance, support for domestic violence victims, and increased access to education and job training. Now I'd like to invite Ms. Juliana to share the next slides.
Thank you. And the same like my colleagues, it was a pleasure to work with the team in the CEDAW committee task force. So next slide, please. So it was very important that we together, we were able to get a task force mission to strive to eliminate all forms of discrimination against women in Milpitas, with a specific attention to economic development, healthcare, and violence against women. Next slide, please. Alongside with the mission came the vision for the task force, and it says that we Milpitas recognize that women and girls are valued members of our community and demonstrate its commitment to the elimination of discrimination against women and girls by ensuring that the city remains safe for women and girls with increased awareness and access to resources for women and girls. And I think in this part, I want to commend the task force and the city for including very diverse women in the task force, and that included a representative from Milpitas High School. Next slide, please. The CEDAW task force recommendations, you will see that there's 4. The first one is that we want to build a robust social service programs, promote increased awareness, and include local resources for women and girls, convene an annual women's symposium, and convene the CEDAW task force annually. Next slide, please.
Thank you. So our recommendation to City Council, of course, is receive a report with the recommendations from the CDOT Task Force and consider the need for future additional meetings and events by the CDOT Task Force, or provide direction to sunset the task force on August 31st, 2023. That concludes the report.
Thank you very much, Tegan. And so now I will ask, first of all, I just want to make a couple of comments about the CEDA that Vice Mayor and myself attended. I consider this to be the initial, it was a grant that we received from the government, I think from the federal government, and it was to identify needs where women are not represented and different areas where they lack. And so I'm hoping that maybe if we get another grant from the federal government, that this one will be an event that includes guest speakers and to promote awareness and resources to the community. So that would be the next it all falls on if we receive another grant, because we've already done the initial stages of identifying what the needs are. So now we'll go to my colleagues, and I have Vice Mayor Chua.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to commend the women, the members of the task force, for spending time and really looking at the issues here in Milpitas, specifically to prevent violence against women. And you have done your work. You delivered this report, and I would like to thank you all so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that. Now there are, as a recommendation, is to sunset the task force. Consider, here it is, consider the need for additional work by the CDOT task force, or provide direction to sunset the task force. So what is your desire? Or any other member of the council?
Mayor, I would like to just receive the report with a recommendation from the task force, and maybe in some future, maybe next year, we can revive it and look at some of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Since this is an action item, from my understanding, then I need a second from someone. Or I could second it myself. I'll second that. And we'll take a vote.
Mayor, before you take a vote, I believe you have to take public comment.
Thank you for that. Public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, is there anyone from Zoom?
I have no hands raised.
Seeing none, then we will take a vote.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Hold on.
Oh, aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 17, community development. And we're going to have staff read the title.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is a report and a presentation from our Assistant City Manager, Ashwini Kantak, regarding options to develop for development or disposition of 3 city-owned parcels located at 1432 to 1488 South Main Street. And again, we have our Assistant City Manager here to present the staff report and facilitate a discussion with the council.
Thank you, Ned. Good evening again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Ashwini Kantak, Assistant City Manager. And if we could please have the presentation brought up. So as this acting city manager mentioned, we will be presenting you with information on 3 parcels on South Main Street, 1 owned by the Housing Authority and 2 by the City of Milpitas. And as you know, disposition and development of these parcels presents a really unique and exciting opportunity for the city and Housing Authority to actively shape a part of revitalization of Main Street. There have been several prior discussions related to these parcels, so I'll cover that briefly, provide information on several requirements and considerations related to these parcels, and then present a few options and seek council direction on a few specific questions. If I could go to the next slide, and that's the agenda. So maybe a couple of slides, please. Forward. Yeah, next slide, please. So again, just a brief background. We've been referring to these parcels on South Main Street as parcels 1, 2, and 3, with parcel 1 being the former Milpitas redevelopment property currently owned by the Housing Authority. And in accordance with the dissolution law, Housing Authority was required to initiate activities to develop affordable housing, either affordable housing or sell the parcel by August of 2022. And actions have been taken to prepare the parcel for sale since then. There is no specific timeline to dispose parcels 2 and 3, but if the city wishes to sell or lease these parcels, it would be subject to the Surplus Land Act requirements, which I will talk about a little later in the presentation. Next slide, please. So as I noted earlier, there have been several prior discussions. I won't go into all of it, but just wanted to highlight a few discussions and direction provided on these parcels. So in December of 2021, the Housing Authority directed staff to proceed with activities to prepare the parcel for sale. And so since then, environmental assessment, asbestos and lead-based paint analysis, and an appraisal have all been completed. At that same meeting, the City Council also provided some direction. The Housing Authority provided direction on tenant assistance, which I will describe a little bit later as well in the presentation. And the City Council at the same December 2021 meeting asked to bring back parcels 2 and 3 after adoption of the Metro specific plan, which was adopted by the council earlier this year. And then in February of 2023, the City Council also asked to conduct a feasibility analysis to locate a police substation on either parcels 2 or 3. And most recently, in June of 2023, Council asked staff to explore the purchase of parcel 1 from the Housing Authority. And if this went through, to consider a comprehensive approach to develop all 3 parcels through a long-term lease rather than sale. Next slide, please. Next. So there are several legal requirements, funding considerations, as well as some other considerations related to these parcels. So I'll cover them all briefly. Happy to take more detailed questions after the presentation. So as noted earlier, parcel 1 has been prepared for sale by the Housing Authority. However, since it is adjacent to parcels 2 and 3, the city could consider making an offer for parcel 1 to the Housing Authority and developing all 3 parcels through a long-term lease, as I mentioned. If council wishes to have staff explore this, we will bring back a price and payment terms discussion to the council in closed session. I would also like to note that if the city were to purchase parcel 1, any future lease or sale of that parcel will be subject to SLA requirements. Next slide, please. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about potential city use of parcels on parcels 2 and 3. So all 3 parcels are within the boundary of the adopted Metro specific plan and what was the former Transit Area Specific Plan, or TASP. The current infrastructure plan for TASP includes a police substation as well as parks, and these could be potentially located on these 2 parcels for all 3. Other city uses could include evidence storage and emergency operations center, or EOC. These are both public safety needs that we have currently, as well as maybe parking for the area. And in terms of funding, we have $1 million available in TASP fees set aside for a police substation. We have about $12 million for parks and community improvements. However, this is pretty much all slated for future parks and other improvements in this area. Some considerations for the council: if you consider setting aside some or all of parcels 2 and 3 for city use, there are some things to keep in mind. We have done a feasibility analysis on the existing buildings and rehabilitating them to accommodate a substation or even other public safety needs is not cost effective. It would be a lot more prudent to incorporate a substation in any future development on the site. In terms of other public safety needs, as I mentioned, evidence storage, which is again a need that we have currently, or a new EOC, it may be best to incorporate these into any future efforts related to the police headquarters building, since there are significant space and infrastructure condition issues that need to be addressed comprehensively, along with associated ways to fund a replacement or a new headquarters building. I wanted to note that currently we have run out of space at the headquarters building for evidence storage. So council may recall that some of the Tarab Court facility that the city owns is being used for evidence storage. However, that is slated for a new park. So we will need to look at some interim options as we again look at a longer term solution for the headquarters building. And then in terms of any open space or parking, these are just potential uses that could happen. We have not done any scoping. If council's interested in looking at any of these city uses on the parcel, we'll have to come back. Again, this may be better to just incorporate into negotiations for future development. Next slide, please. So the Surplus Land Act, or SLA, basically requires local agencies to first offer surplus land for sale or any lease that is longer than 5 years to affordable housing developers and certain other entities. There are certain exemptions to this, as noted on this slide, and it's really based on the type of development and the number and type of affordable housing units. I won't go into all the details now. It is there for your reference. We're not really going into a detailed discussion on this today. In terms of process, if the city did want to declare a portion or all of parcels 2 and 3 as surplus land, we would have to go about declaring that first. And then if we don't qualify for an exemption, we would have to market the properties through a statutory public process and then negotiate in good faith with any qualified responding developers. Next slide, please. There's some housing element considerations. If we want to explore any non-housing uses for these parcels, non-residential uses are not allowed except in a mixed use format. Some non-residential use could happen, but it may require an amendment to the land use map and zoning. We could have a TOD overlay, which will allow some limited ground floor commercial and office use. And that could be like a small substation, could be accommodated through that. And really through the Housing Crisis Act of 2019 or SB 330, we cannot, in a sense, reduce the approved residential density or the number of units. So currently it's zoned as a very high density residential for these parcels. So we cannot reduce that unless we can demonstrate that we can make up for the lost density in units somewhere else within the area. And just for your reference, the adopted housing element assumes a total of 207 units across the 3 parcels. Next slide, please. And then existing tenants, as you're aware, there are existing tenants on all the 3 parcels. So parcel 1 has 5 business tenants and 1 residential tenant. And then parcels 2 and 3 have 5 business tenants as well. And again, in December 2021, when we discussed this with council, the direction to staff was to assist the existing tenants by connecting them to resources and helping them identify other potential locations through the city's real estate broker contract. If we were to develop a public project, such as affordable housing, park space, or municipal buildings, it would likely trigger state relocation requirements. And typically that's what we would have to adhere to unless we had federal funding, and then federal requirements would apply. Next slide, please. Next slide. So today we're presenting you with 3 options for your consideration, and these are at a very high level. We do not need detailed direction on the options necessarily today. We do have a few questions to help guide council discussion and direction soon after this slide. So option A, which we're thinking may be a recommended option, would B, to really negotiate purchase of parcel 1 from the Housing Authority using funding from Affordable Housing Fund 217. And then the city would negotiate a long-term lease with a developer for all 3 parcels in accordance with the SLA process, either through an exemption or outside of that. And then the negotiations could include incorporation of maybe certain city uses such as public safety functions, open space, and parking. Option B could be that the Housing Authority sells parcel 1 separately. City negotiates development of parcels 2 and 3 in accordance with the SLA process. And then there could be an option to develop parcel 1 if the same developer was interested. That could be done in conjunction with 2 and 3. And then option 3 is really we don't take, and the city does not take any action. We defer the development of parcels 2 and 3 in the future, and parcel 1 is just sold separately by the Housing Authority. Housing Authority would have to move to sell the parcel to any other interested entities. Next slide, please. Next slide. So here's the 4 questions to help again guide the discussion. And the first one is really the key one. Should the city make an offer to the Housing Authority to purchase parcel 1? As I mentioned earlier, if council wishes to do so, we will bring back a price and payment terms discussion to a future closed session. And again, if you do not wish to move forward with that, the Housing Authority will need to move forward to sell parcel 1 as soon as possible. The next few questions, depending on what direction council wants to go, you could give us input today, or we could bring back for a future discussion, because whether we have parcel 1 or not may influence what we're doing with parcels 2 and 3 in the future. But again, happy to take any input you have today on what you'd like to do in terms of actions on parcels 2 and 3. And then also, if they are to be declared as surplus land, how much land, if any, would you like to set aside for city uses? And then, of course, is there any additional direction about tenant assistance, or do we kind of continue to follow the December 2021 direction unless something changes and we do move forward with a public project, at which time we would bring it back to you for discussion. And that next slide, please, which is just a recommendation to receive the report, and then please provide direction to staff on parcel 1, and then any input you may have on 2 and 3. That concludes the presentation. So we have several directors here, as well as the Deputy City Manager. Happy to take any questions council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashwini. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, are there any from Zoom?
I have no hands raised on Zoom.
And now that we have none in person and then on Zoom, I'd like to ask my colleagues for discussion on this item. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Ashwini, can we bring back the questions you want us to answer?
Sure, if you could have the presentation up, please.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay. For question 1, should the city make an offer to the Housing Authority to purchase parcel 1, since the Housing Authority is also the council? I would like to explore that to yes, to staff bring back a price and payment terms discussion for the city to buy parcel 1 in a closed session. Number 2, I think I would defer discussion or on parcels 2 and 3 until we know more what we can do with parcel 1. Number 3, the same, and defer it until we know exactly what we can get out of parcel 1, because it depending on if we can buy parcel 1, then we can decide on what to do with parcel 2 and 3. And the same
There's no additional, didn't we have some feedback on this, on how we can assist the current tenants? Ashwini?
Yes, Vice Mayor Chua. So there was prior direction, and we can continue to just take that as our guidance at this time, which was really to assist them and help them find other locations and make our city brokerage service available to them. So
Right.
that was the direction. And so we can continue to do that. And again, if in the future there is a public project, then that's a different discussion.
Okay, so I'll just go with the previous council approved direction. I think those were good directions from the council. So that's my input. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Are there any other discussions? Because I have a few comments. Councilmember Lin.
Thank you. I agree with Vice Mayor Chua. I think if we can at least try to put in an offer and see if we can get that piece of partial for the city. And for number 2, 3, and 4, I also agree with Evelyn. Sorry, Vice Mayor Chua. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And now going down to Councilmember Fan.
Yes, I would also second Vice Mayor Chua if those were a motion. And then I would also say that in the meantime, I think until the property gets developed, perhaps we can utilize the space for storage for some of our public safety fleet. I know we have a lot of vehicles that do need storage. So as a use of the property, because I know that the whole planning and entitlement process can be quite lengthy. That may be possible if the grading is permitted.
Thank you, Councilmember Fan. So I'd like to make a couple of my recommendations. So option A is probably the best way to go, which is city buys parcel 1 from the Housing Authority using a combination of funding from the Unrestricted Affordable Housing Fund. And the reason I say that is because if we buy it, it opens up, we don't have to, we can buy it, but we can hold on to it and we can lease it like we are leasing the other 2 properties. And it gives us time to decide what we're going to do. And the other thing is that most developers, when they buy property, they want to buy a larger size piece of land. And having those 3 parcels that belong to the city, it is more appealing to them because it's actually, it'll be a selling point actually, because we have more land. So I would consider buying parcel 1 and then leasing, as we're leasing the 2 and 3, leasing parcel 1 as well. And this gives us time to be able to decide, to project and plan for the future. And again, we will be the ones to decide because the ball is in our court. We decide when we want to sell it and when in the future. If it wants to be probably it could be far out, it doesn't have to be right away. And again, it depends on the markets. We can wait till the markets are really great and sell it then. And it also gives a chance for the existing tenants to have more time there as well. And also it also allows us to have the police department park their cars out in parcel 3, I believe, because there's still a lot of space there. So those are my recommendations. So if you can repeat your recommendation, Vice Mayor, because I'm not clear.
right.
That's the same one? Is that? So hold on a minute. Okay, Vice Mayor.
I just want to restate my motion and with the addendum from Councilmember Fan to go ahead and explore question number 1 to buy the property from the Housing Authority, and 2, 3, and 4 will be deferred, with 4 keeping the recommendations made from the previous council as recommendation, with the additional recommendation from Councilmember Fan to use the current parcels for storage of trucks and whatever else we can use it for, because we are overflowing in our Milpitas police station. Is that about
Right. So basically, in essence, it's the same. We want this, because what they're really asking is if we want to sell parcel 1 to the Housing Authority, and you're saying, yes, you want to sell it to.
Right, but we need to explore. We decide to sell, but we need to know what does it mean to sell. And they're going to come back in a closed session because we can't
Right.
talk costs on an open session.
Yeah, right.
That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Okay, well, that's in the same lines as what I am recommending as well, because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So on
Mayor
there,
Montano.
Councilmember. Let me have Assistant City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to respond to some feedback from both Councilmember Fan and you, Mayor, about the use of parcel 3. We have done a preliminary feasibility analysis. Given the age of the building and the condition, it will be pretty expensive. We have an estimate of about $1.4 million to basically for roof repairs and electrical work. And so we'll look at it some more, but I just wanted to put it out there that it may be a little too expensive to use that for storage. We may have to look at other options. So just wanted to note that.
Yeah, I did see that in the report, but I wasn't really thinking about the buildings themselves. I was thinking about parcel 3 has it's fenced off, and I think they were thinking more where the police can park their
right. So
not the cars,
maybe
but
we could maybe use it for some parking, but not for evidence storage, because that needs to be.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So we will continue to look at it, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Okay, but I guess the main impetus is to sell parcel 1, and then, as Vice Mayor had mentioned, still research the uses
come
for
back.
2 and 3.
Yes.
Okay, and I think Councilmember Lynn.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to confirm, because you say you want to sell parcel 1, but to ourselves. Okay.
Right.
To the Housing Authority, which is us.
Okay, because when I was reading this, it says make an offer to the Housing Authority to purchase, and then you go to sell. I just want to clarify that.
May I clarify?
Yes.
Today, you guys are meeting only as the city council for the city of Milpitas. The actions by the city council for the city of Milpitas would be to make an offer to the housing authority to purchase parcel 1, at which point that parcel would become city property. It may be subject to some of the requirements that are there for parcels 2 and 3, including the Surplus Land Act, depending on how it's being used, as it's stated in the report. As the city council, this body cannot and should not consider whether to sell the property, that will have to be considered at a meeting of the housing authority, of which you guys will be the housing authority board. But you'll be sitting with different hats and you'll have different fiduciary duties that you owe to that body.
Right. And that's the reason why I need the clarification, because I do know that mayor and vice mayor also served as the housing authority.
Oh, that's a housing subcommittee.
Would you represent? Okay. So it is to make an offer to housing authority to purchase parcel 1. That's clear.
Okay. Okay, so Vice Mayor, hold on a minute.
Yes,
Vice Mayor?
I just want to make clear that the motion is clear. Suzanne, thank you.
Oh, this was an item on for feedback. I'm not sure there needs to be a motion and a vote on it.
Is it, is for information?
With the consensus of this council, we will bring an item to closed session that will relate to the price and terms of an offer that you guys can make to the housing authority.
Let me-
The recommendation calls to provide direction on
Can you please, city attorney, make it clear? Do you need a motion on this? Because item 1 is a direction to purchase. That's not a motion? I mean, you don't need a motion for that?
Well, so item 1 was direction to have staff bring back to closed session for you to discuss the price and terms for which you would purchase the property from the
Okay.
housing authority.
So
It does not obligate you to then purchase it. It just obligates staff to bring back the item to discuss price and terms. There has been a consensus. Staff will absolutely bring back the item. If you wish to make a motion, it's still an option to make a motion. It's just not necessary at this time.
So what is it? You need a motion or you don't?
We do not need a motion. Staff has all the direction it needs.
Okay, fine.
Okay, there's consensus to reach out to the housing authority and seek about purchasing the land. And city attorney, city manager, do you have any comments to make?
No additional comments. Thank you for
Okay.
your direction.
All right, so there is a consensus and there is no action needed and we don't need a vote, so that is, so is staff clear on it? Okay. All right, now it is time for announcements. So city attorney, do you have any, city manager, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have any announcements for tonight.
Okay, council members, do you have any announcements? And I will.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one request, and that is to provide a city council with an info memo on lesson learned from the Maui fire and how we can update our emergency preparedness strategy or plan to adopt or get best practice from the whatever we learned from the Maui fire to prepare our city. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you. And this is the request to acting city manager.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I do appreciate your concern. And sometimes when I look at the hillsides, I always wonder, it might happen. It can happen anywhere. I mean, that was
Can happen.
didn't even just caught everybody off by surprise. Is there anybody else any of my colleagues that have any
Mayor,
other announcements?
Mayor, we're looking for consensus on that item, right? Just to check with the colleagues on the council to see if there's consensus for that item proposed by the vice mayor.
Okay, yeah, there was a consensus. Okay, and I have a couple of announcements. So I want to wish Happy Independence Day. Today is the actual day of India's Independence Day, and tomorrow there will be a celebration at the Civic Plaza, the Cesar Chavez Plaza. I also want to do a referral. The referral is to find out, look into our weed abatement policy. And that's it for me. Is there anybody else? Okay, well then, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.